The open road holds numerous secrets, and the individuals who navigate its endless highways often encounter the unexplainable. These are the stories of drivers who ended up face to face with the extraordinary, the upsetting, and the tremendously unnerving. Turn down the lights and set yourself up for a journey into the obscure as we share 3 upsetting true trucker horror stories. Story 1. The Phantom Hitchhiker. Carl had been a long stretch driver for over 20 years. He was extremely aware of the roads and took great pride in his capacity to remain alert. However, on a wrecked highway in the middle of nowhere one evening, he encountered something that profoundly affected him. His truck's headlights, breaking through the murk, provided the main light in the pitch-black evening. Carl saw a person on the side of the road, thumb out, looking for a ride as he drove by. Regardless of the peculiarity of seeing somebody in such a distant region, Carl felt a strange compulsion to stop. A young woman with pale skin and long, lifeless hair entered the vehicle. She didn't say a lot, just expressed gratitude toward him delicately and gazed through the window. Carl tried to make conversation. However, her reactions were abrupt and far off. After a couple of miles, he looked over to see her seat unfilled. Overreacted, he pulled over and searched the truck, yet there was no sign of her. Convinced he must have imagined it, Carl continued driving, but he was unable to shake the shocking inclination. As he moved toward the following truck stop, he heard a delicate voice murmur, "Thank you," and the temperature in the cab dropped out of nowhere. Shaken, Carl pulled into the truck stop and hurried inside, seeking the warmth and company of other drivers. Inside, he shared his story, and an older trucker nodded knowingly. "You're not first to pick her up," he said. "That stretch of highway is spooky by a young lady who died in an accident a year ago. She appears to lonely drivers looking for a ride to her final destination." Carl never ever drove that route around evening time again, tormented by the memory of the ghost hitchhiker and the chill of her spooky presence. The experience had an enduring effect on him, a constant reminder of the dainty cover between the living and the dead. Every time he heard an unfamiliar sound or saw a shadow move in his fringe vision, he couldn't help but remember that eerie encounter. The road was no longer just simply a means of travel. It had turned into a place of fear. Carl's once relentless certainty was supplanted by a lingering fear of what might still be out there, waiting. Story 2. The Rest Stop Encounter. Mike was used to the isolation of the open road, but even he needed a break from the vast miles. One evening, he maneuvered into a secluded rest stop to get a couple of long periods of rest. The parking area was vacant, save for a few other trucks and the faint gleam of a single streetlight. Mike climbed into his sleeper taxi and drifted off, yet his rest was soon hindered by the sound of strides crunching on rock. He glanced out the window but saw nothing. Dismissing it as his imagination, he tried to sleep again, only to hear the footsteps grow louder, circling his truck. Annoyed, Mike got out to confront whoever was disturbing him. He checked the region yet saw nobody. He felt an icy hand on his shoulder just as he was about to get back in his taxi. He turned around and saw a frail man with hollow eyes. "You should not be here," the man murmured, before vanishing into thin air. Shaken, Mike jumped back into his truck and locked the entryways. The strides continued, presently joined by delicate murmurs that appeared to come from all directions. Sleep was incomprehensible, and Mike spent the rest of the night wide awake, gripping the steering wheel until sunrise. When daylight finally broke, Mike sped out of the rest stop, vowing never to return. His heart pounded as he left the eerie place behind. Later, he discovered a chilling truth. The rest stop was built on the site of a violent confrontation between truckers years ago. Stories circulated among the trucking community about the spirits of those involved, eternally bound to the location, reliving their final moments in a loop of torment. The knowledge only deepened Mike's resolve never to return, and the memory of that night stayed with him, a haunting reminder of the ghosts that roam the open road. Story 3. The Haunted Freight. Jim was a seasoned trucker, pulling cargo the nation over. One evening, he was tasked with delivering a load to a remote warehouse in the desert. The journey was long and uneventful until he arrived at a stretch of street known for its odd events. As he drove, Jim saw a glinting light in his rearview mirror. At first, he thought it was another vehicle. Yet the light appeared to drift, floating simply behind his trailer. Unease settled in, but he kept driving, determined to reach his destination. Out of nowhere, the temperature in the taxi plunged, and the radio crackled to existence with static. A voice emerged from the commotion, murmuring his name. Frightened, Jim switched off the radio, but the whispering continued, becoming stronger and more tenacious. "Help me!" the voice argued. "I'm trapped!" Frightened, Jim pulled over and actually checked his trailer, yet saw nothing awry. He climbed back into the cab just to see an unearthly figure in his front seat, a lady with miserable, frantic eyes. She reached out to him, her touch icy cold. "Please," she begged, "free me." In a frenzy, Jim sped away, the spooky figure blurring as he abandoned the spooky stretch of road. He later found that the street was scandalous for a grievous mishap, including a young lady who had been killed while hitchhiking. Her restless spirit was said to haunt passing trucks, seeking someone to help her move on. Jim completed his delivery, yet the experience left him profoundly shaken. He was unable to forget the lady's pleading eyes or the icy chill of her touch. The memory tormented him every moment, a distinct sign of the spooky presence he had experienced. From that night on, Jim carried a small charm for protection, hoping it would ward off any future ghostly encounters on the open road. The once familiar and comforting expanse of highway now seemed filled with unseen terrors lurking in the shadows. Jim's confidence in his routine was replaced by a lingering sense of dread, forever changed by that haunting experience. These stories serve as a wake-up call of the concealed risks that prowl on the open road. For drivers who spend countless hours driving through the night, the between the real world and the extraordinary frequently obscures. As you explore the highways and byways, remember these stories, and recall that occasionally, the most agitating experiences are the ones you can't explain. Drive safely, and may your journeys be free of the apparitions that torment the forlorn stretches of the road. Keep in mind, the open highway holds mysteries and shadows, and not all who wander the night are of this world. Keep your eyes open and your mind sharp. Whether it's a ghost hitchhiker, a spooky rest stop, or a ghastly presence in your taxi, the road can be a place of hidden terrors.